All right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. This is the 49ers Week 4 post-game edition. Guys, the 49ers have lost their first game of the 2025-2026 season, and it was a frustrating one at that. I'm going to get into it here, but I gotta say up front that this was a frustrating game in a lot of ways. This is a game full of errors, missed opportunities, lots of young players making some timely errors that you don't really you can't expect to win ball games with a lot of this stuff going the way it did. So let's get right into it. I want to talk first about the first half. Once again, one of the keys going in, we needed this offense to get rolling pretty early, quick, and start this game off hot for the 49ers. They didn't do that. The 49ers had 5 possessions in the first half. The first possession of the game, missed opportunity in the red zone. You settle for 3 points and a field goal. So you're up 3-0. You follow that up with a fumble, and then an interception, then a 3 and out. And then right before halftime, you have this really nice play. It was a dime to Ricky Pearsall from Brock Purdy. Ricky flips it back to Christian McCaffrey, and Christian runs it for a first down. And then there's a ball to Juwan Jennings. He goes out of bounds, gets a first down, and we're in the red zone right before halftime. So this is like an opportunistic moment. You get to kind of give yourself an opportunity to really cut into this lead, and you're once again finding yourself running into a brick wall with Christian McCaffrey. You find yourself not being able to convert through the air with Brock Purdy, and you're forced to kick for 3 points. Right after that, and I will say before I move on, there's still time on the clock. There's not a lot of time, but there's enough time. So your special teams unit needs to do their job on the kickoff. That they did not do. On that kickoff, they let the Jaguars get 54 yards from the start of their end zone and get all the way out 54 yards and set themselves up. So this offense then goes all the way down for the Jaguars and gets themselves in honestly position to score a touchdown. And defense tightened up when they needed to, and they're able to hold them to 3 points. So the 49ers at that point are down 17-6. It's not pretty. You feel like there's already all these missed opportunities early on, and just specifically in the first half, you had your Luke Farrell fumble on a first down catch. Then you had a Christian McCaffrey tip interception from Brock Purdy. It wasn't a great ball, but it wasn't a ball that Christian should have necessarily struggled with as much as he did on that. Nonetheless, it was a tip drill, and it was an interception going the opposite way. And that would have been probably 3 points because you were rolling down the field. Fred Warner has 2 potential picks that he wasn't able to get his hands on. And like I just said, the Niners go down the field on the last drive of the first half off that awesome play from Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey, but they're not able to do anything again in the red zone. So they're 0 for 2 on their red zone attempts in the first half. So frustrating first half and a very slow first half for the 49ers. And Jacksonville at that point is doing a really good job limiting the ground game, as every team has done. Kyle Shanahan did talk about that earlier this week. He talked about how teams are selling out to stop the run, and that's why you see them throwing the ball as many times as they are to start this season, is teams are forcing the 49ers to beat them through the air. They know the wide receiver troubles that they have right now. They know that George Kittle is not available, so they're not going to be able to do much in the pass game. So teams end up selling out like this, stopping the run and forcing the 49ers to beat them in a way that they might otherwise not want to, according to how their system is generally played out. So tough first half, but going into the second half, you're wanting the 49ers to just get one big stop early and get the ball back and give yourself an opportunity to go down and get a touchdown, because at that point you're going to be right back in the ball game. So big stop. The 49ers get the ball back from the Jaguars, and they go all the way down the field for a touchdown. They go for 2. It's a pass to Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings gets banged up. It looked like a rib shot. And I actually didn't see exactly how, or rather I didn't see the final injury report prior to starting this recording, so keep an eye out for that, and we will talk about this week. But he gets a little banged up on that play. And so it was unfortunate, but you also stacked points. You stacked 8 points real quick, and you're able to really pull yourself back in this ball game and shift the momentum. Fred then forces a fumble. It's his 17th career forced fumble that passes Patrick Willis on the all-time record for the Niners. And unfortunately, Fred was unable to get his hand on that ball. It bounced around, luckily for the Jaguars, and ended up right back in their possession where they were able to convert that for 3 points. Now, as you remember, in the first half, special teams struggled to stop that kick return initially, and they were able to get 54 yards. Well, the 49ers are forced to punt, and the Jaguars take it the distance. They go all the way from our side of the field all the way into the opposite end zone for a touchdown. So this is the second one of the game. This isn't the first one of the season. This isn't the second one of the season. This is multiple opportunities, or rather multiple times throughout this season that we've seen this special teams unit struggle again to stop a return. So this is something to keep an eye on as the season progresses. Jaguars had a good return unit and they had a good return plan, but this one especially, few broken tackles, just missed tackles all over on that play. So they go down, take full control back over the game. And at this point, you're like, man, the 49ers just need to get something going offensively. So the 49ers open up the very next drive with a great touchdown. It was a one-score game at that point. Purdy extending multiple plays throughout this entire drive. It was promising. It makes you feel like, okay, we're, again, right back in this game. It wasn't our defense that made the mistake. It was our special teams unit. So as long as special teams hold their own, defense has been off the field here, we can kind of, maybe get something going our way. And again, these missed opportunities were a massive factor. Jacksonville ends up missing a field goal late in the game that would have made it an 8-point game. The 49ers at this point are ready to go down the field. They're ready to try and go win this game like they've done in impressive fashion through the first 3 weeks. And Brock Purdy drops back. And who else other than the veteran who used to be here for the 49ers for 9 years, Eric Armstead, makes an incredible play on Brock Purdy, strips the ball from him, and that's Brock's third turnover of the game. So really frustrating scenario that broke down there. And I didn't talk about it, but Brock had another just really bad pick. That one right to the linebacker. It was a little bit of a tip on at the line of scrimmage, but it wasn't enough to affect it that much. It was going to be a bad throw regardless. So, Purdy's got to play a lot better in that standpoint. But again, this is another drive at the late stage of a game where Brock Purdy has an opportunity to go down the field. And we've seen him do it before, but we've also seen him turn the ball over. And again, he turns that ball over. So this is a guy who's making $53 million at this point. Whether he's Mr. Irrelevant or not, he is who you have paid to be your franchise quarterback. And if your franchise quarterback is continuously struggling to win you ball games when you have an opportunity, no matter how the rest of that game is gone, it is concerning. Now, from that standpoint, I will tell you, and I'll remind everybody, if Niners fans are watching, you already know. If Jaguars fans are watching this, because I know you guys wanted me to eat my words, y'all did play a great game, but we had a lot of injuries. Obviously, you had the Nick Bosa on the defensive side of the ball. But on the offensive side, again, no Brandon Ayuk. Again, no George Kittle. So you have these missing pieces, and you have a banged-up Ricky Pearsall, and you have a banged-up Jawan Jennings. You have all these missing pieces, and a team that's already, as the Jaguars, they're selling out to stop the run. You're forced to win through the air. Hard to win through the air, and this is where I'll give Brock a little bit more. It's hard to win through the air when there's 6 different drops on at least 5 catchable balls. That's a really tough thing to overcome. And we've already seen so many drops throughout this season already. I mean, just in the last game against the Arizona Cardinals, we can all remember when Marvin Harrison Jr. dropped that ball. He had another crucial drop, and he's had crucial drops throughout the season. A lot of wide receiver have. You look at CeeDee Lamb right before his injury, he was struggling with drops. So it's been a storyline here as the season really gets into the thick of it. But the missed opportunities again in the second half for the 49ers were another reason why they just weren't able to overcome this Jacksonville push. So when we talk about the missed opportunities in the second half, you had an Upton Stout pick that it was a tough pass interference call. It was probably the right call. You could call that so many times. And I've seen interceptions go the opposite way where the same thing happens and maybe even a little bit more, and that's not called. So it was ticky-tack. Again, right call. I get it. It's a little frustrating that it was called, but nonetheless, it was. Fred Warner had that forced fumble he couldn't recover. Kendrick Bourne drops his second pass that, leads to a punt return touchdown for the Jags. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened. It would have been a first down. And honestly, he probably would have gone the distance. He was in stride, ready to take it. And there was maybe one safety back there. So if he sheds that or he gets the outside on him, he's gone. But nonetheless, he doesn't. Punt return touchdown. Red zone turnover on downs. Again, the 49ers get to the red zone. They aren't able to convert. And then the game on the line turnover by Brock Purdy. So all these missed opportunities and not being able to take advantage of, for instance, like the 12 penalties that the Jacksonville Jaguars committed. They had 12 penalties for 90 yards. You should be able to take advantage of that. And the 49ers, while they had 5, and you think 5, you can bring that number down a little bit, but should be able to survive. They were terribly timed penalties. So tough game for the 49ers. And you really saw a lot of that lack of consistent lineups really take form today. You don't know week to week who the 49ers are going to put out on the football field at this point. You had a few guys playing injured today. You had a lot of guys stepping into bigger roles than they otherwise wouldn't have. And, I talk about a little bit that Nick Bosa loss that the 49ers are dealing with right now throughout the rest of the season. This isn't a promising game for that defensive line. That defensive line wasn't able to hit the quarterback one time. They weren't able to get home on Trevor once. The pressure that I highlighted and said they need to have that pressure on Trevor Lawrence because he will turn that ball over. They didn't get that pressure. And even still, Trevor had a lot of opportunities to turn that ball over, but again, we didn't jump on it. We didn't take advantage of those. So, tough game for the 49ers. And it's tough now, I'm going to get into the injuries here in a second, but it's tough now to know you turn around on this short week where you got to play the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football, a team who has an identity, a team who is finding ways to win ball games. They lost the one game against, the Eagles, but aside from that, they just got a late game win against the Indianapolis Colts. And even that game, missed opportunity for the Colts. Fumbled it through the back of the end zone when it could have been a touchdown, and instead it turns into a safety going the opposite direction. So, the Rams were able to take advantage of things that went their way. The 49ers were not. And the Jacksonville Jaguars did also take advantage of the 49ers and their mistakes, and especially on those turnovers, getting 14 points during the first half on those turnovers that's the kind of thing that wins you ball games on the side that takes advantage, and that's the kind of thing that loses you ball games. How many times have you seen this season already teams take advantage of these opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have and take advantage and win these ball games when you expect it to go the opposite direction? And we've seen that countless times just in this early season as things kind of get into the flow and your identity. But it is a tough game, guys. So I'm going to start wrapping it up here. I'm going to get into the injuries now. We will talk about this. Marcus and I will break this down, and the episode will be out Thursday morning before Thursday Night Football, so you guys can listen in, see kind of where we're at with the injuries. I will have the final injury report before that, so we'll talk about all those injuries. But in this game specifically, Luke Farrell went down a couple times. He had a shoulder thing, and then he ended up going down another time. He did come back into the game, and I believe finished the game as well. Then you got Juwan Jennings takes that shot to the ribs. It looked like a ribs. It's something in midsection. So we'll see what the diagnosis on that injury is. He also did come back in this ball game, but he was playing injured. He was already kind of playing injured with the shoulder. Now potentially something else. Ricky Pearsall re-aggravated what looks like his knee, and he didn't return to the game. He was having a really nice game as well. He had that incredible one-handed catch. I mean, I'm building off of it last week saying that he was a budding star right before our eyes. He still is. Once this lineup really gets its identity back with, some of these injured guys coming back, I feel like the 49ers are going to find a real rhythm, and especially Ricky Pearsall is going to find a rhythm in this offense where it's not just, a random shot here and there. He's genuinely used in everything that the 49ers are scheming up. So we're seeing Ricky Pearsall develop right before our eyes, but again, going down with that knee injury, you question how, what kind of availability he's going to have as the season progresses, especially if you need him and you're continuing to play him when he's not 100%. So again, game Thursday, guys. We're going to talk about that later this week. But overall takeaways from this one, you got to hand it to Jacksonville. They were opportunistic. They took advantage of a 49ers team that was lacking a lot of identity, lacking a lot of players, missing a lot of players due to injury. And the opportunities that were given there, that were handed to them with the interceptions, the turnovers, and the silly mistakes that the 49ers made, they jumped on those opportunities and took advantage. And that's what a good football team does. So hand it to the Jags. They played a really good game. That defense is absolutely top 10. You could, I think, find an argument for a top 5 if they continue to play this well against good offensive teams. And we'll get some good tests for the Jacksonville Jaguars as the season goes on. Look, you're paying Brock Purdy $53 million. Simply, Brock Purdy needs to do better. I'm one of Brock's biggest fans. Since we started this podcast 3 years ago, I've been really high on Brock Purdy. I'm still high on Brock Purdy. Today doesn't change my mind. But what today did do was even further instill the lack of confidence I'm tending to lean towards now when it comes to his late game drives and decision making. This has been an issue with Brock Purdy. Again, you can say it has a lot to do with the guys he's missing. You don't have George Kittle. With George Kittle being out, the 49ers do not have their run game, their blocking potential of George Kittle. They don't have that kind of versatility. It's pretty one-dimensional when the 49ers are running the football right now. So Brock is forced to make these plays. You saw Mac Jones, even in the weeks he was playing, struggle to make plays at opportunistic times, but he did go down and lead his team to a victory. Brock Purdy had a chance today to steal this game from Jacksonville, and again, really unfortunate. He was trying to make a play out of it, trying to extend plays, which he does at an elite level. Unfortunate, timely fumble that was forced by none other than Eric Armstead, right? So Brock needs to be better. The red zone issues, going 1 for 3 in the red zone. Shanahan and that offense need to figure something out. Despite the lack of run game, you need to find something that works. I think once you get George Kittle back, that number is going to be better. But the one opportunity that George Kittle had in the red zone this offseason, or at the start of the season, he did convert it, right? So technically, when George Kittle's here, we're 100% in the red zone, right? So we'll see what that looks like when he gets back. But that timeline is still really fresh. We don't know exactly how his injury, recovery is going right now. So we need to figure out that red zone issues, because this is the second year in a row where we're struggling with the red zone. And the Nick Bosa loss is the last key. It's as heavy of a hit as you can imagine for the 49ers right now. Quick turnaround, like I said, for Thursday night against the Rams. Missed opportunities all around, but you do have an opportunity to bounce back and grab a win against the Rams and really position yourself in the NFC West. So we'll see how this week goes. We'll talk about the injuries. We'll talk about keys to victory. Marcos and I will break all that down and more, guys. So this is a game that, again, was really frustrating. You see a lot of this, a lot of these mistakes being made, a lot of these opportunities not being taken advantage of. But you got to remember the kind of youth that this team has right now, the kind of injury situation that they are going through on a week-to-week basis. It's not good by any stretch, but it's something that I don't think you can necessarily turn a blind eye to. I think the injuries and just having to consistently throw out a new lineup every single week is really affecting the game planning for the 49ers. So we'll see as Robert Saleh kind of figures out his defensive line and the approach he wants to take. I think this was a good opportunity for Rob to really feel out the guys that he has now at this defensive line, to feel how he wants to attack teams moving forward. So I'm looking forward to Thursday to see the kind of scheme that they draw up against the Rams. But again, guys, we appreciate you as always tuning in. I've been Benny the Jet Rets. Go Niners. We'll get them again. We're 3-1. Again, with all these injuries, you're still positioned in a way where you can make a run at things. So we'll talk to you next week, guys. Peace.